Welcome to Faith in 5, a weekly video devotional designed to discuss practical spiritual concepts in 5 minutes or less. I'm your host, Mark Vandella. I used to lead a Bible study in my living room with a group of guys that were a couple years younger than me. And these guys were an awesome mix, like just from all over the place. Some of them went to church, some of them didn't. And as I looked around, I wondered if I had the right people in the room. You know, sometimes group dynamics affect conversation and the questions that are asked and things like that. And then one day, we were studying the Psalms. And I asked them all, everybody's holding their Bible, and I said, hey, turn to Psalm 121, and let's read that. And all of them, almost all of them, turn, just kind of open the book to the middle and then sort through it, right? But one kid was just paging through, like literally going book after book after book, and could not find the Psalms. And so thankfully, one of the other kids that was in the group was like, hey, man, can I help you? And he opens it to it and shows him. He was like, Piss Psalms? You didn't tell me that it started with the P. What the Piss Psalms? If you would have said turn to the Piss Psalms, I'd already been there. And this kid is hilarious. I mean, he always would say crazy things like that. But we all just fell over laughing because he didn't know, obviously, right? The Psalms start with the P. And at that moment, I no longer had a concern of whether I had the right people in the room, because what I wanted to do in my living room is create a space for people to be able to ask questions about their faith, to push on some things and figure it out for themselves. And this kid, my friend Jay, was absolutely one of those kids. See, Rob Bell has this concept in his book, Velvet Elvis. He says that some of us, or most of us, when it comes to faith, our faith is like a brick wall, and that each brick is kind of a foundational piece of our faith. But what happens in that kind of a model is that anytime somebody asks about one of the bricks, we end up standing in front of the wall and kind of protecting the wall. Because if one of those bricks is called into question, if somebody starts to try to poke holes in your wall, you're at risk of the whole thing coming down. And so Rob says we should actually consider thinking about our faith more like a trampoline, right? You've got this center mesh type deal, and on the edges all the way around are these springs. And he said these springs are our foundations, but there's give in them. There's some flex where we can ask questions so that we know for sure that this is what we want. That we know for sure that this is how it works. But we have to push on it first. And so now there's nobody protecting the wall. And in fact, if you've ever been on a trampoline before, it's not very fun by yourself. By design, trampolines are more fun when there's other people involved, whether it's somebody else on the tramp to double bounce you so you go flying, or whether it's other people standing around the trampoline trying to catch you so you don't break your face when you fall off, right? It's more fun with other people. So is our faith. Our faith is designed to be lived alongside other people. So that reminds me of a story because I wanted to create a space in my living room for people to be able to come and ask their questions, right? Bring your doubts to the table. And there's a story in the Bible, Mark 9. It starts around verse 20, 21. There's a dad whose son is afflicted. He's got some serious issues, and he wants help. And so he heard that Jesus might be able to help him. So he brings his son to Jesus, and he says, Jesus, please, if you can, please help us. And Jesus picks up on that can, and he kind of questioned him. He said, what do you mean if I can? I'm Jesus. I can help you. And he's not necessarily saying, like, what, you don't think I can? Go home. He's just challenging this guy. He's almost pushing on it to see, do you believe? Do you not believe? And the father's response is, Jesus, I believe, but please help me with my unbelief. See, this dad wouldn't have brought his kid to Jesus if he didn't have some sort of belief, but he also has some doubts. And so in that instance, it seems that Jesus gives us the spot to flex on our faith. And in the story of my friend Jay, we created a space where he could ask those questions. He wouldn't have been coming and holding a Bible if he didn't have some belief. But that space that we created allowed him to ask some of those questions, to not know that the Psalms is spelled with the P, right? So as you live out your faith, as you go, consider whether or not you are a person who's creating space for those questions, for those doubts, for people to be able to ask questions and you walk with them or you jump with them. And then I would say, Go, take off your shoes, and start jumping. Bring the right people to the table, bring the right people to the tramp, and then start pushing on faith and just living faith out together so that you can continue to move forward. Ask God to help you with your unbelief, but also bring other people into the fold that can do the same. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to follow us each week, click here to subscribe. And if you want to take it a little bit further, click here for discussion materials.